Good morning and welcome to Cover 2 Cook. We are on episode 42. We're going to be recapping the NCAA Saturday football. We're going to talk a little bit about our bets on Saturday as well with our NFL talk, must-watch games, and then finish with our bets for the NFL. But before I get too far, let me bring on my co-host, Mr. Tim Cook. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. We had some really good games Saturday. Some letdown games as well.
Yeah.
After teams have been playing really well last week, had really big games, kind of a letdown. So
I agree, and it was one of these things where it started out as seemed like it was just going to go status quo with Indiana and Ohio State, and then Ole Miss lose and all this, and we'll talk about it. But it just seemed like this week we kind of saw that the SEC is just like the NFL. Any given Sunday
yeah,
you can lose, and any
yep,
given Saturday you can lose in the SEC.
yep, I totally agree.
Let's start it off with that Indiana versus Ohio State. What did you think about that game?
Indiana jumped out to the 7-0 lead. Boy, they looked really good. And then Ohio State said, "Okay, we're done,"
Yeah.
and they just put it to them. I mean, they have just got more talent they have all the 5-star recruits. They're just a lot better, and uh, that I think that muff punt when it was 7-7 at the time,
Yeah.
and he muffs the punt, and they go right in and score. I think they had all the momentum, and they just put it on. I mean, they only scored 8 points after getting out to that 7-0 lead. They got outscored 38-8. They're just a better team.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I think that the punt return for me personally changed the game. I understand that one because it made it 14-7, and the crowd got back into it. But it was one of these things where you took that 7-0 lead, and it looked like you guys could have scored however you wanted, Indiana. And then Ohio State kind of gets their field going, and then you have that mistake. But then you're down 14-7, and then you punt it off. So now it's the second special teams problem that you had where they return it back for a touchdown. And it's like then the crowd was all in it, and you were out of it.
Yeah.
My problem with this game, too, is Indiana waited way too long to get Rourke out of the pocket. They let him sit in the pocket and get sacked and all the pressures and shit like that. And in the fourth quarter, they were like, you know what? Let's get him out of the pocket. They go down there and drive and score. And it was like, why wait that long?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I totally agree. They just got the better talent. I mean, and I think they're out as far as the football playoffs. I think their strength of schedule. I mean, we said that same thing for Notre Dame. If they lose, they're out.
Yeah,
they've already had the one loss. I just think they just don't have it.
Well, and I think the thing with Notre Dame that helps them, and we'll talk about them a little bit, but they have ranked wins.
Yeah.
Where Indiana had nothing going into this weekend.
Yeah.
And then you get kind of blown out. Like, I know that the score kind of looked a little bit closer, but it wasn't. So I think now that they're blown out, I don't see how they have an argument to stay in the college playoffs. But
I agree.
Well, that moves us to our second must-watch game and recap of the NCAA was BYU versus Arizona State. Let's just say it right now. The Big 12 is a mess because BYU, we ran them throughout this whole time saying, hey, they're the team. Arizona State gets hot recently, and it looked like Arizona State was going to run away with this game in the first half. And then BYU comes back in the second half, gets it close to a game. I mean, it just seemed like any time that BYU was out of it, they did something that kept him back in it. And Arizona State, you can't just score 7 points in the second half and think you're going to win against any other conference because you're not.
Yeah.
SEC, Big Ten, whatever. You're not going to win. Now, the end of that game had so much controversy with throwing the ball out of bounds and all that other bullshit. But just score. Just score. Because guess what? You make it a 2-score game, the game's over no matter what. But what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, they came out. I mean, they were up 28-9 at one time, and then they let BYU back in it.
Yeah,
and it's like, maybe Reslov was dealing. He was throwing the ball over. He had a couple interceptions. They didn't convert on the 2-point conversion. I mean, they had them right where they wanted them, and they just could not get over the hump.
Yeah,
they just couldn't. They just couldn't do it, and they're just and like you said that. There's 4 teams with 6-2 records in the Big 12, 5 teams with 5-3 records. So now you're talking 9 teams out of the 12. I think there's more than 12 in that conference that have a legitimate shot of going to the Big 12 championship.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's wide open, and now you got Colorado losing. So now it's wide open. But yeah, I mean, I think Arizona State right now is playing really good ball. I mean, that Scatterboom Man, he is Skitterboo. He is just. I mean, he had 3 rushing touchdowns. They're playing really good ball. I think that coach has got him on the right pace. On the right track.
I do too, but I what makes me fearful is how that game ended with that coach.
Yeah.
Because you had them at the 5-yard line. You could have just scored a touchdown. Instead, you run backwards for like 15 yards to try to waste time. And then you end up like, what was it? They ended up doing another run behind or whatever. And it was
because they were at midfield and they gave him the ball back with 1 second to go. I mean, that throw, I mean, they probably could. They could have, the clock could have ran to zeros, but I mean, they had to review it. So, I mean, and then the crowd, and it took them almost 15 minutes to get the crowd back off the field. They had to get the goalpost back up because they released that. It was just like, and that coach was red hot. But you know what? I mean, you run out of the pocket or something, and then throw it out of bounds.
I just don't understand. Your running back that is like the Incredible Hulk back there, just taking hits after hits after hits, and runs the ball so hard like a bowling ball that you're at the 5-yard line and you just don't think about running a score. That made me feel that he had doubt.
But you know what, Anthony, you see that in the NFL where they won't score because that gives them the ball back and gives them opportunities to score again.
No, hold on, relax. So if you score and it makes it a 1-score game, that makes sense not to. You're going to hold on to that ball to the last second.
Right.
But if you can make it a 2-score game, what does it matter?
Right.
And they were like, and the announcers were like, well, the guys return kicks and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. They have to still do an onside kick because you made it a 2-score
But you don't
game.
want to give them that opportunity. That's the problem.
It was a better situation, and I think they learned a lesson than what they ended up doing. Because if that quarterback threw it 3 more yards, they lost.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? If I'm the AD, see you later, coach. That was dumb. You're gone. But excuse me. When you do talk about the Big 12 right now, you can't. I don't know if a team deserves to be in the playoffs. I know it sounds bad,
right?
Because I just don't think they're good enough. If we're gonna put Indiana on the outside and say, "Hey, you guys just didn't play hard enough," I think Indiana could beat one of these Big 12 teams or the big winner of the Big 12.
Right.
Because
I agree.
Colorado lost last night. BYU's losing. I don't know if Iowa State ended up winning or not.
They end up winning. They end up do winning. So,
But they're just so hit or miss. It's so hit or miss. Yeah. Arizona State, if they can win out and win the conference, I think they deserve to be in.
Right.
No other team does.
Right. They're playing the best ball right now.
Yeah. If Colorado wins it, I don't think they should be in the playoffs. And if BYU gets in there, I don't think they should be in it either.
Right.
Well, that takes us to our final must-watch game. As Notre Dame fans, this was a great game. But what did you think about this one?
Wow. I mean, they just totally dominated Army. Yeah. I mean, from the get-go. I mean, Leonard throwing that pass, and then they had to block punt. I mean, and they got the ball. And then that hurdle by Jeremiah Love made it 14-0. That you just could tell. Things I did not like is they went for it on 4th down. I mean, they had them at 14-7. They went for it. And then they didn't convert. But it seemed like they ran the same play all 4 times.
Yeah.
You couldn't have done a play action, roll Leonard out and see what you had, even pitch it to Love, or Leonard could have ran it in. I didn't like that kind of call. And luckily it didn't come back to bite him in the ass. But I mean, and then the kicking has got to get cleaned up. I mean, he missed one from 48 right at half. He got one blocked.
Yeah.
Good teams like that, they'll take advantage of you on that. I mean, Army's a good team, but they just haven't played anybody yet.
Well, and I will say this. It felt like a tune-up game.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to say this late against a ranked team. But even Notre Dame's offensive lineman, they talked about him that he's like, we are out-talented them. We are out-scheming them. We are going to beat them, but we need to play our best ball. That's just plain and simple. Well, I think Notre Dame did. I think there was obviously we're talking about the field goal kicking, and what I cannot like is Leonard jumping. Stay your ass on the ground.
Yeah.
He goes down, and I know it's crazy because we were like, we hate Leonard, get rid of him, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
If Leonard gets hurt, Notre Dame is not a playoff team. They are not. That backup came in, and he doesn't look bad, but he'll be good next year. He won't be good for this. So I didn't like that. The 2 red zones that they had, it was like, oh, the play didn't work, so let's do it again because we want to make sure we get this right. And then it didn't work again.
Right.
You know how many times I was sitting there being like, just do Tebow it, where it looks like you're going to run it and then throw it over the top. Because Army was selling out for the run. Like, I definitely agree. I just think it was one of these games. I think we have to put them in the same consideration of Indiana. They go to USC next week. If they lose, they're done. No matter what anyone says, I would love for them to be a 12 seed because I still think they're a good team if they lose against USC. But your strength of schedule is not that great. Army, you beat a ranked Army team, you beat a ranked Navy team, you beat a ranked Louisville team, and you beat a ranked Texas A&M. So you still have 4 ranked teams that you beat.
Right.
But when you go and look at the end of the year, out of those 4 teams, they didn't end that well. Army's the only one that's still doing okay, and we just beat them this week. So Navy's barely winning games. Texas A&M lost again this past weekend. Like, I feel like it's just a little bit harder to say that. So we'll see.
And I think the USC game scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I've got a bad feeling they could lay an egg there. Yeah. I just
Well, and the way that Notre Dame started the second half with that touchdown, it was like, this isn't going to happen in the playoffs.
Right.
Like, we're not going to be able to control the line of scrimmage the way we have these past 10 games or whatever against.
Right.
But also, I think the loss to Northern Illinois changed a lot of people's perspective at Notre Dame. And I think that's why we are doing what we're doing now, the way we're winning games.
Right.
And also, too, we talked about it at the beginning of the year, that offensive line didn't play together until that game. And you can tell that they have done better. But let's go through the rest of the college football and talk about some of these scores. So Texas beats Kentucky 31-14. Penn State barely beats Minnesota 26-25. Oklahoma upsets Alabama 24-3. Miami wins 42-14 against Wake Forest. Florida beats Ole Miss 24-17. Georgia wins 59-21 against UMass. Tennessee wins 56-0 against UTEP. Boise State out-edges Wyoming 17-13. SMU beats Virginia 33-7. Auburn upsets Texas A&M 43-41. Kansas beats...
Oh, sorry. And 4 overtimes. That was a very good game.
Yes. Kansas beats Colorado 37-21. Clemson beats the Citadel 51-14. South Carolina beats Woodford 56-12. Iowa State edges out Utah 31-28. Missouri wins 39-20. And Illinois beats Rutgers 38-31. You were just talking about that 4 overtimes, but what else games brought your attention this weekend?
Yeah, Oklahoma beating Alabama. Boy, I tell you what, that Milroe, when he's on, he's on. When he's off, he's way off.
Yeah,
and he was way off last night. I mean, that was, and Oklahoma brought the defense against them. So I mean, that shake, that's kind of a stunner. Now Alabama's out, 3 losses. They're out. Georgia's in the SEC championship, and the winner of Texas A&M, they'll play. So that should be, I mean, now that's a game that they must win. Their team must win to get into the SEC championship. Yeah. So, and like we said, too, there's 4 teams in the Big 12 that's 6-2, 5 teams at 5-3. That'll go down to the last weekend as well. So, this was what you thought was, you had some letdown games, and you just, whatever you thought was going to happen, didn't happen.
Yeah, no, I definitely think, I mean, the Auburn, Texas A&M, we kind of all saw that coming with the looking ahead. And Auburn plays well at Auburn. 4 overtimes, though, it had us on the edge of your seat. One of your bets was one of it. Colorado shit the bed. And then what I think the thing about Colorado is the way the game started getting chippy at the end. Shadur pushes a ref. It was one of these things, like, the discipline was gone at the end. Right. And I think they knew that at that time, there's a good chance they're not going to be in the Big 12 championship now.
Right.
We talked about the Florida beating Ole Miss. I mean, Jackson Dart, just looked like shit in the 4th quarter. Don't get me wrong. He didn't have a star wide receiver, but got to play better than that. Like you said, Jalen Milroe's and then Penn State barely pulling it off against Minnesota. I know it's at Minnesota, but it's not helping you still have a loss that the game that you had to win, you lost. So when you have things like this, it's like, it's hard to think they won't be in the top 4 because they're not going to win a conference.
No,
but like, don't give reasons to get yourself out of it. So,
right.
How'd you do betting this week or on Saturday?
I did good. I had the North Michigan in 11.5. That was a win. Texas A&M Auburn. I had Auburn given 2.5. They won straight up. But then I had Air Force and Nevada. That's why you don't bet on the Mountain West, because you just don't know what happened. But Nevada, and I laid the 3.5. They got beat by 2. So 2-1 this week.
Yeah, I ended up 2-1 as well. My game that got me was Ole Miss. I thought Ole Miss would handle this. I thought they were a playoff caliber team. Florida just, they were hit or miss, and it was like, that's why when I even talked about the betting, it was like, do I even go back to this well of Florida?
Right.
Because you don't know what Florida team this is. Well, they burned me. Florida plays really well. Ole Miss doesn't. So I had them giving 11. Yeah, no, not happening. They lost that one.
Right.
My other game was the under of Pitt and Louisville. Made me sweat it at the end because Pitt started deciding to play the game because Louisville just beat the piss out of them.
Right.
I won that one. It was a 57.5. We talked about that. That was a high one for ACC.
Yeah.
They got up there, though, so it wasn't too far off.
Right.
And then the other game was Arizona State -3. They won by 5. But with BYU getting that last second, if it's 3 yards more in there, I lose that bet. And that's the shit that just pisses you off when Arizona State, I'm not a fan of yours anymore because you almost made me lose that bet. So, but we ended up 4-2 this weekend for college football, which is good for us because my betting hasn't done well recently. But you, on the other side, also hitting a good 2-1. So now we got to move to the NFL. NFL's must-watch first game, Vikings versus Bears. Bears are coming off a tough loss to the Packers, but looked better on offense. Vikings need to get the run game started. Recently, they're one of the worst NFL teams with the running game. Aaron Jones actually made a comment that he's ready to get back in there. Hopefully that can spark some of that offense. Vikings defense kept Will Levis to a lot of minimum when it was quarterback run. Hopefully they can do that with Caleb Williams, keep him in the pocket, let him make plays with his arm instead of using his legs. And then I think for the Bears, you just got to keep it simple. This Vikings defense is going to throw a lot at you.
Yeah.
So if you don't keep it simple for Caleb, he's going to have too much. I did hear one thing about this game is that last week they gave Caleb Williams the call a lot earlier in the play clock so that they could talk to him through the whole rest of it.
Wow.
So what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, Bears looking to snap a 4-game winning streak or losing streak, and Minnesota's riding a 3-game winning streak. So, like you said, can Caleb Williams put he played very well last week. Can he put another game together like they did last week? Because that defense is going to blitz all day long. They're going to blitz and blitz. They're kind of like on Remember the Titans. You blitz,
Yep. Don't
all
give them
day.
an inch.
Yep. So, and another deal too is, will this be a letdown? I mean, this is going to be another hard game to play. I mean, against the Vikings. So, will the Bears have a letdown and just stink up the place? I don't think they will, since they're playing at home. But I think this should be a really good game. I think.
Actually, I think it could go the opposite way. I think this is a game that Vikings start seeing what Sam Darnold really is. I'm a Vikings fan.
Right.
But Sam Darnold has started having a lot more turnovers recently. And that's something that in the beginning of the year when we were winning, he didn't have. I think this Bears defense, the way that they are ball hawks, you got to be good, Sam Darnold. You got to be good with the ball today. I think Justin Jefferson has to have a big game. You got to get him more involved in the offense again. But again, like I said, the running attack. I think the running attack is got to get going for the Vikings because that opens up the pass. And you have so many weapons. I mean, when we look at other teams like Detroit and the Chiefs and Eagles, their running attack is the start to open up those big weapons.
Right.
So, but no, this will be a great game. This one's a noon game, so a lot of people will be definitely watching this one. The other game that we have for must watch is Cardinals versus Seahawks. Seahawks are coming off a big win versus San Fran, while Cardinals are coming off a bye. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, and you know what? This is for first place in the NFC West. This is a big game. Arizona's on a 4-game winning streak coming off the bye. While Seattle, they had a big win last week at the 49ers. They came from behind. Geno Smith played, kind of took the team on his shoulders and just, got him into the win. If the Seattle wins, here's a nice stat I looked up. If Seattle wins, Rams beat the Eagles, 49ers beat the Packers, every team in the NFC West will have the same record. That's crazy. I mean, it'll be all up for grabs. I think the Cards offense right now is clicking. Yeah. You got Murray. He's getting it to Trey McBride. He's getting it to Harrison. That running attack of James Conner. That's going to be tough for Seattle to stop because they are right now playing probably one of the better they're one of the better offenses right now in the league right now. So I mean, I'd put them right up there, top 5 or top 10 as far as offenses. I mean, they're just, and for Geno Smith, got to keep the momentum going. You guys had a hell of a win last week against the 49ers. Keep it going. I mean, got to get your running attack going with Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, and get the ball to DK and your wide receivers. Because I don't think that defense for Arizona, it's not top notch, but it's not bad.
See, I'm actually going to go the opposite way on that one. I think the Arizona's defense has played really well with Budda Baker. Budda Baker's obviously the head of that defense. The way they've been able to slow down offenses, not stop them. I don't think they have a stop-worthy defense.
No, I don't either. Right.
But slowing them down. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to have a big game because you're going to have double coverage over DK. I think this is a game where Kenneth Walker needs to step up. The running attack how many weeks are we going to say that in a row with Seattle? The running attack, okay? And not just because I have Kenneth Walker as my running back. Get the running back going, okay? But I think when you look at this offense for Arizona, I mean, they're putting Kyler Murray in MVP talks. And the NFL analysts. Now, for me, that's just hard to believe because we all know the contract had to have so many hours of watching film and blah, 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 all that crap. But I think getting Marvin Harrison Jr. has helped getting a wide receiver that's a deep threat / good route runner. But I think the way they've used James Conner this year, it's not just the running attack. It's the screens. It's the out of the backfield. They've said, hey, you're going to be our workhorse. And James Conner's like, put it on my back. Let's do it.
Right.
Trey McBride is a great dump down, but he's also a quick tight end as well. So if he does get an open field, he's going to go. I think this would be a great game. We say that this NFC West is kind of like open for grabs. We got San Francisco getting a lot of their people back. LA's got a lot of people back. Seattle's coming back with DK. Arizona's been decent since the 0-2 start or whatever. They've won 4 straight or whatever.
Right.
My thing is about this game, though, I don't think either one of these two teams win the division.
Really?
I think San Fran or LA is going to take it. And it's hard for me to say that because we had so much about LA. Oh, LA. Oh, LA. I think that was a fluke last week. I think this week, Sunday Night Football against the Eagles, we'll see what's for real because that's a good Eagles defense now. They've been playing really well recently.
Right.
But I think this game we're talking about is for now. I just don't know if either one of these teams have the talent to hold it the rest of the year.
Right. Well, and here's the deal that I kind of push back on about the 49ers. How long is Purdy going to be out for?
Yeah.
That is a big deal. I mean, he's out this week. If he goes on the IR in 4 games, I don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see the 49ers. I think they're done. I think they're done now, but they're really done. I don't see them coming back. They just got too many injuries. I just don't think they could get it going.
Well, and every team has this year where it's all injuries. And this is just this year for them. Because you've been to the Super Bowl, 2 of the past 3 years or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Or in the NFC Championship.
Yes. I mean, so
right.
And the only way you get there is having a great year without injuries. And that's all it is.
Yep.
Because the NFL talent throughout the NFL is pretty even. And that's why they say any given Sunday you can win or lose. It's whether you can manage the injuries and manage the game plan. And so I definitely see that one. But I actually kind of just forgot about him again, Brock Purdy getting injured about this.
Yeah, we just talked off air about
I know.
Him.
And I was like,
and you went, what? I said, yeah, he's not playing this week.
Yeah.
And then this is kind of funny.
Well, the last must-watch game gives us Monday night. It is Ravens versus Chargers. Harbaugh brothers are facing off again in the NFL. It's been a while since they both won the NFL. Both teams have strong running attacks. You got J.K. Dobbins over in the Chargers. You got Derrick Henry, which J.K. Dobbins used to be a Raven. You wonder if the Harbaugh guy said, hey, you probably should pick him up. But I think the players we're going to talk about on Tuesday night or when we record on Tuesday night, Wednesday podcast, is not going to be either one of those 2 running backs. The 2 players I think we're going to talk about is either going to be Ladd McConkey or Zay Flowers. Because I think it's going to come down to the passing game of who's going to take it over. Ravens defense might be without Roquan Smith, but we'll have Kyle Hamilton. Chargers might not have Khalil Mack as he is questionable as well. Those excuse me, those are 2 big defensive statues, I want to say, just people that you can't go through.
Yeah.
So if either one of those teams don't have those players, I think that's a huge detriment to their defense. But this should be a good game. What do you think about this game?
Both teams already having 7 wins this year. So I think whoever wins this one on Monday night is in the driver's seat for the playoffs. I really do.
Yep.
I think they're, Chargers not going to win that division. I think the Chiefs have got that. But, I mean,
We'll see.
the Ravens, with Pittsburgh going down Thursday night, this is a great opportunity for them to win and get right back in it. They'd only be a game back, through 10 games. Herbert, he's kind of slipped into maybe the MVP role as well.
Yeah.
He's starting to play better ball. In 10 games, he has a 63.5% completion rate, and he's thrown thrown for 2186 yards, 13 touchdowns, and only 1 interception through 10 games. I mean, he's got it where he's just managing it. I think Harbaugh's not putting too much pressure on him. He says, "Here, we'll dump it down to her. We'll start with a running back, and then he'll get Quentin Johnson going. Lad McConkey going." So I mean, he's playing really good ball. I think the key will be, can Herbert keep the turnovers down like he did last week against Cincinnati? He didn't have a whole, he played really well, and also J.K. Dobbins, playing against his former team first time, and also Greg Roman is the OC for LA Chargers. He also was last year the OC for the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. So, I mean, that's a big deal. I think this Ravens offense is probably one of the top 5 offenses can that defense, which they've been playing better, can they slow them down? Can they slow that offense down? Because I tell you what, they slowed Cincinnati down for a half, and then Cincinnati just started putting it on.
Yeah.
Which they still won, but it's just the idea.
Well, and you got to look at Cincinnati is a 7-on-7 team. I heard that stat, or not someone say that. They're a 7-on-7 team. They can throw the ball everywhere. They can't get the running attack going. That's where I think with the that's why I said Lad McConkey and Zay Flowers are going to be the people we talk about, because I think both teams are going to have to – they're going to rely on that running attack, but they're going to have to get open to passing. They're going to have to get the passes down the field. Justin Herbert is definitely playing really well. I think he's going to go into a threshold of how teams he's got to play. And the biggest thing with him is keep him healthy.
Yeah.
Because he is a Baker Mayfield. He's going to go every play to the 100 max. And the problem with that, though, is if the ball's on the ground, don't go for it. Don't dive for it. I need you for the next 4 more games or the rest of the year instead of that play. But there's something in that head of his that's like, I need to go get that ball. That's the only problem I have with Justin Herbert. And it's not a bad thing. It's just one of these things where, like, when you're a GM, you're like, yo, come on, don't do that.
Yeah.
This will definitely be a good game. I do laugh because you're saying the offensive coordinator for this went to this team, and then the running back. I think the Harbaughs definitely taught. They're obviously, great brothers. They talk to each other. I saw that. God, what is his name? The NFL analyst that breaks all the news.
Oh, Schefter or
yes, Adam Schefter.
Yeah.
He has a segment that's on ESPN about the Harbaugh, and he hung out with them for like 3 days.
Wow.
And they pick at each other every second of like that. You could just tell the competitiveness.
Yeah.
But I think what happens is on Thanksgiving dinner, they start talking about, well, hey, that J.K. Dobbins, man, he can run the hell out of the ball. He's a good runner. And then he goes to free agency, and guess what? The other Harbaugh goes, you know what? I'll take him. I'll take that running back,
Right.
So I definitely think that this is something and JK is a great story because it almost seemed like it was a career ending with the way it kind of happened. I just think the Ravens for this game, I wanted to bet it. I did. I so bad wanted to bet this game. I wanted to go the Ravens side. It's just the problem with the Ravens is like, are we going to get them against Pitt? You know what I mean? Like against Pittsburgh, where the offense couldn't get going until the end when it mattered, but like it was too late. So we'll see about this game. Other games this week, other games that are going to be happening. Lions versus Colts are at noon. Patriots and Dolphins are at noon. Buccaneers and Giants at noon. Cowboys and Commanders, Chiefs and Panthers, Titans and Texans are all at noon. At 3 o'clock today, we have Broncos versus Raiders, 49ers versus Packers, and Cardinals and Seahawks. Tonight's game is the Eagles versus Ravens, and Monday night we said was the Ravens versus Chargers.
Eagles versus Rams.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Eagles and Rams. What other games kind of bring attention to you this weekend?
I mean, I think let's see how the Chiefs rebound.
Yeah.
After getting beat at Buffalo. So I mean, let's see how they rebound if they kind of, go a little bit backwards. I think I don't think they shouldn't have any problem with the Panthers. Everybody's beating Panthers, you know. So I mean, I think the Bears game is going to be really interesting, you know. So I mean, I think we got some really interesting games.
Yeah. So what do you got for your first bet this Sunday?
Tampa versus the Giants. Tampa's coming off the bye and getting Mike Evans back after the hamstring injury. Giants going with Tommy DeVito and the Italian, bypassing Drew Lock, which you paid $5 million, and now he's still the backup. What are you doing, Giants? They've got a mess. They're in disarray. You know, after benching Daniel Jones, then the next day you got him in a practice jersey, and then the next day you release him.
Yeah,
they are in disarray. Anyway, the Bucks have covered the spread 7 of the last 8 after a loss, while the Giants have failed to cover in each of the last 5 games. I think the Buccaneers are in better position as a team and still have an outside chance for the playoffs. I like the Bucks, and I'll lay the 5.5.
You know what? I'm on that same bet as well. So I have Tampa Bay as well on that one. So that's my first bet as well. I just think the Giants have, like, the decision to release Daniel Jones was a huge problem. I mean, what I've looked up or heard is that then they benched him, and the players were not happy about it. So then they released him to get him out of the toxic. Well, it's still lingering. It's still a lingering toxicity there. Tommy DeVito, you're like, well, man, he kind of played pretty well when he came off those injuries, or when he came when he came in last year and stuff like that.
Right.
The problem is now there's tape on him, so now we know that the release didn't happen on Thursday. It didn't happen on Friday. It didn't happen right before, like, Tampa Bay was, like, not able to game plan. It happened earlier in the week. So now Tampa has enough game time, or time enough to know what to go. I agree with this one. I think Tampa, with getting Mike Evans back, even without Mike Evans, I like the 5.5. But with Mike Evans, I really like it, because you got to remember, coming off of a hamstring, he might be kind of on a little bit of a snap count. I don't know if he's going to play the whole game.
Right. Well,
what do you also got for your second bet?
Go back to the Daniel Jones deal. Also, why they benched him is because they didn't want to pay the $24 million that he owed this year in case he got hurt. So you have him on special or on practice squad being a DB. What if he got hurt then? Yeah. What are you guys doing? I mean, who's running the organization? Anyway.
Well, and one last thing I will say about that too is the summer we had that hard knocks of the Giants. That now looks awful for that GM.
Yes.
Because you were warned, do not let Saquon go. Do not let him go. Nobody, and now he goes to your rival, and he's having second best running back in the league right now, blah, blah, blah. And then you said in the hard knocks, you said, we have to see what Daniel Jones is made out of. We have to, we'll go get him a weapon, but we have to. Well, now you saw it, and it didn't work out either way for you. Yeah. Unfortunately, that GM, after doing the hard knocks, which I don't know what team is going to offer that up again in the future. The next hard knocks that they're doing is actually the AFC North. Yes. The Pittsburgh Ravens, all them are going to be the hard knocks. But I don't know what team is going to offer up the GMs to be on that kind of conversation again. Because
you got another deal too is they have all rights to edit everything that Hard Knocks does, and they didn't edit that.
Yeah,
that's not good.
What do you got for your second bet this week?
Chiefs at the Panthers. Chiefs coming off a tough loss against Buffalo. Where they're right in it to the fourth quarter, and they just they let Allen run it in. While the Panthers coming off a bye and a win in Germany, and they're on a 2-game winning streak. Hey, with Bryce Young at the quarterback, Chiefs have to get back on track, getting Hunt going. I don't think Pacheco's will be playing this game. No. And Kelsey early. The underdog has covered the spread in 4 of the Chiefs' last 5 games. Carolina is a big underdog, but they have no momentum, and Chiefs not really blowing people out this year, and as they only have 1 win by more than 11 points, which I was kind of shocking too. I think the Panthers keep it close. I'll take the Panthers, and I'll take the 11 points.
Yeah, I think you have to in this one. I will say this might be the game that they get that big win because of the way they did. But Bryce Young has looked well after getting the benching, which another quarterback that we just talked about is looking good after the benching. Now, they only played 1 game, but Anthony Richardson, maybe we are realizing that these players that are coming out of college could sit for a year and get enough knowledge to play the game.
Right.
Besides the point, you know what? They don't pay me to be a GM. I'd love to if you're wondering, but maybe they're listening to Cover 2 Cook. But for my second bet, I'm looking. So I didn't like. I'm gonna say this right off the bat. I didn't like those spreads this week. Way too big spreads, or they were too close, and I didn't know what team I'm getting.
Right.
So I do not have any more spread bets after the Buccaneers. For my next one, I have the Colts versus the Lions. Now both these teams Lions are putting up 40 points a game. It seems like high 30s. The Colts defense can't stop the flu. So I think the Lions are going to get their points. But here's the deal. The Lions are missing a linebacker in this game. They still don't obviously have Aiden Hutchinson. The running attack for the Colts has to get going in this game. Yeah. Jonathan Taylor has to be vital. Yeah. I think the Colts are going to score a couple touchdowns in this game, possibly 3. So that's why I like the over on this. It's 50.5.
Wow.
I think if Detroit puts up what points they should with the 40, 30-some, and the Colts can get a couple touchdowns in there, I feel like I'm pretty good with this one, but 50.5 for this game.
Wow. I mean, and it's indoors. I mean, both teams play indoors. So, I mean, there's no elements that's going to affect it. You know, and I agree. I mean, I think that's only going to help Richardson if they can get Jonathan Taylor going.
Yeah.
It can only help him. I mean, they've got to get him. They got to get him more touch than they did last week. I mean, they beat the which is a Jets team that's not. I mean, they're kind of reeling right now, but they've got to get him going and help out Richardson.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. What do you got for your third bet this week or this Sunday?
I have Eagles and Rams. Eagles coming off the mini bye when they beat the Commanders last Thursday. Rams coming off a big win, 28-24 against the Patriots. You know, the Eagles are rolling. They've won 6 straight, and the defense has only allowed 18 or fewer points in 5 of those games out of the 6-game win streak. If Saquon can keep going with the offense, they should be in good shape. The Eagles have won the last 8 games in November, and the Rams have failed to cover in 8 of the last 9 November games as underdogs against NFC opponents. The Eagles are rolling. I mean, I don't like the Rams defense, and to slow down Hurts, Barkley, and Brown. So give me the Eagles, and I'll lay the 3 points.
See, and I was thinking about this one so hard because this one actually had a reasonable point spread. I mean, like you said, the 10.5 for the Chiefs, like maybe when they had Tyreek, it was, but this one was the only one I thought about. But then, you know what I thought about was the Vikings playing at LA. And teams playing at LA, I feel like the LA comes out. So this one made me nervous, but I do like that one. I think the Eagles should win. It's just, I don't know. I just for my third bet, I'm actually going to a game that your favorite team, Broncos and Raiders. This game, the Broncos came out with 38 points last week. It was like, oh my God, they could score the ball. They're doing well. Raiders have a good defense, right? It's led with I can't even think of his name. Max Crosby. Yep, Max Crosby. So you have the DN there. You have a good team, a good defense. Their DBs are like very underrated. I like the under in this game. I think it's 41.5. I like the under. I don't think the Raiders are going to be able to score many touchdowns with the Broncos defense being the way they are. And I think the Broncos offense isn't going to be able to score as many touchdowns. Now, what makes me nervous about this game are the Raiders going to turn the ball over and give Broncos good field position in this game. Because if that happens, just like they did last week, where the Broncos actually did well with getting what field position they did, I think I'm going to lose this 41.5. But I like this one because I just don't know if Bo Nix can keep taking steps forward. I don't know if he's going to hit eventually his peak, and we might have already seen his peak for this year.
Right.
So I took the under of 41.5 in this week.
What offense, what Minshew are you getting? Yeah. I think that's the biggest deal too. I mean, they don't have much of a running attack. I think Madison, but what Minshew are you getting? You get one that's going to throw for 300 yards, or one that's going to throw for 100.
Well, and with the way the Broncos defense is played, I just don't think you can throw for 300 yards. Right. There's been a lot of teams that have tried, but I don't think the Raiders, are that team. So we'll see. I like the under on that one just only because I also don't trust the Broncos offense yet. I think they had a great game last week, but they had so many field position or started field positions on their side that I just don't see that happening.
Right.
Well, that is our Sunday. Before we get out of here, I got to show this off. So we made a Cover 2 Cooks t-shirt. I got to thank my wife for that. She did all the ironing and stuff like that. We went to Hobby Lobby. So we're going to start kind of trying to come out with some cover 2 cook. If you guys are interested, definitely let us know. Message us. But I want to thank her for that because she did sit on the ground.
Yeah, that sure does look awesome. It looks good.
And it's like, yeah, you have to go to Hobby Lobby and get every single letter. We're going to find an easier way to do all that. But I want to give her a shout out because I do appreciate it. But we want to thank everyone for listening and watching. We've seen our numbers go up. We do truly appreciate it. If you've been watching the betting, you may want to listen to the co-host instead of the host.
Yeah, 3 weeks in a row, 3-0.
Yes. Hopefully we can keep that going with the 12-0 this week as well. But want to thank everyone for listening. Have a great Sunday.
And they want to also think your niece, my granddaughter, is now starting to listen to Cover 2 Cook. And she made a nice comment about, well, hey, that's my grandpa. Not to say anything about you.
No. I'm to the wind. And that's how it is. When
you're the main producer on it, and she didn't even get a shout out to you.
Hey, and that's honestly how it is when I come home because it's all about my wife. So
all right.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone. Have a great Sunday, and we will be back on Wednesday, recording on Tuesday. Have a great Sunday.